Ba-ba-da-ba Good evening and welcome to the breakdown. I am Tara Setmayer, and the Rick Wilson is off tonight. He'll be back on Thursday. So it is the sixth night of Hanukkah. So wishing happy Hanukkah to all of my friends out there who celebrate this lovely holiday. I had the opportunity 2 years ago to celebrate Hanukkah in Israel, which was an absolutely amazing experience. And if you ever get an opportunity to travel there, it's a beautiful place. The history is unbelievable. And to have the chance to celebrate a holy holiday like Hanukkah there was remarkable. So happy Hanukkah to everyone. Lots of love and light. And there are only 36 days left until the inauguration, but who's counting? 36 days. Hurry up, please. Oh my goodness. And there's one other little date of note today that I wanted to mention. I'm going to take a point of personal privilege here. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw this earlier today. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. But today, 96 years ago, my great-grandparents traversed through Ellis Island to become Americans on American soil. They came from Germany on a ship called the Bremen. And a couple years ago, as a Christmas gift to my grandfather, who has since passed away, but I figured out that you can go to the Ellis Island Foundation. If you know that you have European heritage and that your family came through Ellis Island, you can actually look up the name and find the ship that they came through, the date, and they have copies of the original manifests. So I did that as a Christmas gift for my grandfather a few years ago, something he had never seen before because he wasn't born yet. But his mom and his older sister, younger brother, his dad, the Setmayers, came from Germany on this date in 1924, which is pretty cool. So that's my little call to action tonight earlier in the show, that if you have an interest in your family history and your ancestry and you know that they came over from Europe, check out the Ellis Island Foundation, Google it, and see if your family's manifest is there, and you can see there's notes written on it. It's pretty cool. So if it weren't for them, there would be no me. Here we are 96 years later. So shout out to the Setmayers that came over from Germany. All right, so tonight's show, we got a little bit of a legal theme happening tonight. We have two great guests. First up will be Ron Filipkowski. He's a Republican lawyer who resigned from a Florida judicial panel in protest over the state's handling or mishandling of the data for the pandemic. Interesting to talk to him about what's going on down there in the Sunshine State. And my good friend, CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Elie Honig, will be joining us later in the show to talk about the craziness that happened in D.C. over the weekend and all things Bill Barr. We are finally rid of him, but there's still lots to talk about Mr. Barr. So stay tuned for Elie Honig. And as always, you can send us your questions at #AskTheBreakdown. Send them in. If you have specific questions to someone, let us know. And you can also join us live via our Zoom meeting room. And there's the information for that. And you might get a chance to ask us a question live on air. And as always, we will be taking your questions throughout the show. Well, yesterday was a monumental day. It was a great day for American democracy, not only for the health of our American democracy, but it was a great day for the health of the American people. Finally, finally, the Electoral College vote happened, certified Joe Biden as the president-elect, Kamala Harris as our vice president-elect, and it's something that normally we don't care about, right? Most people don't mark on their calendars, it's Electoral College Day. When's the last time anybody did that? I know I've really never paid attention to that. I think maybe the last time I really paid attention to that was in 2000, because of Bush v. Gore, and that had played out. We had a protracted election there with the recounts and everything else. The Supreme Court, there was a lot of drama. That's the last time that I really paid attention to the Electoral College Day. But a lot of us were waiting with bated breath to watch what happened. And CNN carried it, each state voting, certifying with their electors. There were some shenanigans yesterday where electors in Michigan, Republican electors in Michigan and Arizona, a couple of places tried to show up and pretend that they were there to vote. We're casting our votes for Donald Trump. Donald Trump lost your state. There is no casting of votes. It was insane. Especially what happened in Michigan. It's out there in social media. You can see where the state police were like, sorry, the electors are already here and checked in, and that's not you guys. I mean, they are really just desperately trying anything they can to upend our democracy, and it's really quite despicable to watch it unfold. I mean, we're in the theater of the absurd at this point. And yes, Biden won again yesterday for the umpteenth time. My good friend Randy Rainbow, if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. Randy Rainbow is an amazing performer, and he does amazing parody videos of songs, most of them from Broadway, concerning political things. Phenomenal. And Randy was like, Joe Biden has won so many times, it feels like he's about to be the 67th president of the United States, which I thought was funny. But it feels like that. How many times does Joe Biden have to win? Apparently, he has to continue to win because people are still not accepting it on the other side. Trump has lost umpteen times now already, but yet he cannot accept it. He has not conceded. He has not. He's not acknowledged that he's lost. And guess what, folks? He never will. He never will. This guy will never admit it. It will not fit his personality. We all know that he's a malignant narcissist, that being a loser is the worst thing imaginable for him. So we are never going to see Donald Trump traditionally concede because it has to be stolen from him. He's a perpetual victim. And that's unfortunate because the more that he does this, the more people believe him, his followers believe him, and it hurts our democracy. A poll came out this week that showed 77% of Republicans believe that the election was fraudulent. That is an extraordinary amount of people that have bought into this bullshit that Donald Trump continues to peddle, and that so many Republicans have allowed him to get away with because they were just giving him space so that he could go through his legal temper tantrums, and then, everyone who knows better would come out and speak out. Well, it looks like, finally, Mitch McConnell has made the decision to say something after 6 weeks. It's been 6 weeks. Mitch McConnell decided to go to the floor of the Senate today and acknowledge that Joe Biden was president-elect of the United States, and that Donald Trump had lost. Now, I'm not going to give Mitch McConnell a gold star for doing something that he should have done the first couple days as soon as we knew that Donald Trump lost. Mitch McConnell should have said, cut the shit and move forward then. But no, he did not. And several senators and 126 Republican congressmen apparently decided that they were going to go along with this charade. Well, the thing about this is that Vladimir Putin, for God's sakes, congratulated Joe Biden before our Senate majority leader did. What does that say? Well, I guess Donald Trump isn't having a good day today. Some sources of mine have told me, people I know that have eyes and ears in the White House, that Donald Trump has been moping around, like literally moping around with his head down. He's not showing up. He hasn't had a public event in weeks. He didn't show up for the Secret Service party, the Christmas party that they had, which they shouldn't have been having. He didn't show up for another one of the Christmas parties that they had at the White House. Again, they shouldn't be having these parties to begin with, but usually what happens is the family members of the Secret Service details and some of the staff, they come and they have a chance to take a photograph with the president. He comes out and thanks them for their service and for their, the great job on their staff. He didn't even bother to do that. He was there up in the residence, but he couldn't bother to bring his ass down there and at least even thank the people who have protected him or the people who have been there as loyal supporters. So he is literally in a funk, throwing a multi-week temper tantrum here. And it's kind of glorious to watch, but sad at the same time. I mean, you're the president of the United States, act like it. He hasn't had an intelligence briefing since October 2nd. Since October 2nd. So he's basically trying to hold on to a job that he doesn't want to do. He likes the perks of the job. He likes the power of the job, but he doesn't want to do the work. Meanwhile, we know, you've been following the headlines, that we've had an unprecedented cyber attack in this country. Multiple government agencies, from the Pentagon to DHS and major Fortune 500 companies, by the Russians. Well, what the hell do you expect? We don't have a cybersecurity head in DHS. The president is checked out. He's too busy tweeting and worrying about his own bruised ego, trying to sell a bunch of shit to the American people about it being a fraudulent election. If I were the Russians, now would be a great time to attack the United States. And it's been going on for months, by the way. This is when we say that Donald Trump was an existential threat to our democracy. This is an example of how that is. Not only going after the election, but also not doing the job and not telling our enemies not to attack us, that there will be consequences if you do. And Republicans just sitting back and doing nothing about it. When I worked in Capitol Hill, I was there during Benghazi. And let me tell you what, Republicans went crazy over Benghazi. And there was legitimate concern there for what happened. There was loss of life, there were balls that were dropped. But what Donald Trump has done is exponentially worse. It's like 10 Benghazis. And where are the Republicans? They're silent. They're going along with this kabuki theater. It's very, very, very sad to see. But that's not all that's going on. We have one more thing. Oh, yes, Joe Biden. So the damage that's being done to our democracy here is, we say it all the time. And some people have said, Tara, you sound really concerned. Do you blame me? You see what's going on here in our country? 77% of Republicans, like I said, think that this is a fraudulent election. It's going to take a long time to change attitudes. And, with the Biden administration coming in, they have a Herculean task, not only to clean up the mess in government and, all of the mess that Donald Trump has created, but the soul of the nation needs to be repaired. And, changing hearts and minds is a lot more difficult and takes a lot longer. But with the leadership of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, hopefully we'll have an opportunity to repair it. Take a look.
The flame of democracy was lit in this nation a long time ago. And we now know nothing, not even a pandemic or an abuse of power, can extinguish that flame. So as we start the hard work to be done, may this moment give us the strength to rebuild this house of ours upon a rock that can never be washed away. As in the prayer of St. Francis, for where there is discord, union, where there is doubt, faith, where there is darkness, light. This is who we are as a nation. This is the America we love. And that is the America we're going to be.
Well, amen to that, Joe Biden. And, that was one of the more forceful speeches he's given. I can't remember anyone ever giving a post-electoral college certification acceptance speech, but Joe Biden did. And it was one of the first times that he really went after Donald Trump for doing damage to our democracy. And I was glad to see it. People want to see that fighting Joe. And I thought he struck the perfect chord. And this all happened in the middle of the U.S. passing a grim milestone of over 300,000 deaths with the coronavirus. But then the good news, as I said in the beginning, was that we also saw the first vaccines being administered, which I have to admit, I was strangely emotional watching that happen. I don't know, maybe because it just felt like the cavalry has arrived and that this hellscape that we've been living in is finally going to come to an end, not only from a political side, but from a health side, and that we're on our way back to some semblance of normalcy in this country. And I don't know, I felt some kind of way about it. Am I the only one? I don't know. But anyway, before we get into more of what happened over the weekend and some of these things with Elie Honig later. We're going to talk to Ron Filipkowski about what the hell is happening in Florida. Let's take a look and see what's been going on there.
You got a lot of people in your profession who waxed poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Well, hell, we're 8 weeks away from that, and it hasn't happened.
Florida is also among the states where the virus is far outpacing efforts to contain it.
The governor, who still refuses to require people statewide to wear masks, he said yesterday, hey, listen, we're not going backwards.
They're not even accurately reporting what ICU beds are actually open and closed.
Watching this with mounting concern is Florida data scientist Rebecca Jones. She says she was fired after refusing to manipulate data to paint a more optimistic picture of the state's caseload.
Jones led the effort to establish a public information portal that listed the number of coronavirus cases and deaths in the state of Florida.
Now her home has been raided by state police who showed up with guns drawn.
The governor says she was fired for insubordination, defending the officers today.
These people did their jobs. They've been smeared as the Gestapo.
Do not point that gun at my children!
The warrant has to do with allegations someone at the home hacked into a state system to send a message to health department employees to stand up to the governor.
The unauthorized user wrote, "It's time to speak up before another 17,000 people are dead."
When our guest, Ron Filipkowski, reviewed that search warrant for that raid, he made the decision to resign from his seat on a state judicial board commission there, where he served on for over a decade. He called the state's COVID policy reckless and irresponsible, and he wrote, "I no longer wish to serve the current government of Florida in any capacity." Ron Filipkowski is a criminal defense attorney in Florida. He's a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and a former state and federal prosecutor. He's also formerly a lifelong Republican, and he's now an independent. Know the feeling, Ron? Welcome to The Breakdown.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
As a fellow former lifelong Republican, now independent, I watched that video in horror. My family lived in South Florida for a long time. I lived down there for a couple years. I worked on campaigns there. And I just thought to myself, that was an unbelievable abuse of power. I come from a law enforcement family. My grandfather was captain of my hometown police department for 40 years. I bleed blue. My husband's a federal law enforcement officer. So I'm no, lefty BLM protester, defund the policer, okay? I come from law enforcement. And I looked at that video in absolute horror. What was going through your mind when you saw that? And why was this the last straw for you?
Yeah, well, like you, I mean, I have a kind of a similar background. I was a state prosecutor, federal prosecutor. I was a police academy director. So, and I've been a criminal lawyer for 25 years. So I deal with search warrants all the time. And I've seen search warrant execution videos before, usually body cam, not usually the resident. And I've done a lot of computer seizure cases where they're coming in to seize computers. And I guess that's what kind of took me aback, was watching the video, and that they had the guns out pointing them up the stairs to seize, a laptop, and her cell phone just seemed completely out of whack. It almost looked like a drug trafficking warrant that they were executing, where people were armed and dangerous inside. And, he denies pointing. I'm looking at the video there. He denies that they pointed a gun at the kids. Well, you can see he's pointing a gun up the stairs where the kids are.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, it's typical DeSantis.
Let's talk about Ron DeSantis, since you brought him up. This guy is like a mini Donald Trump. And I watched him early on in the pandemic. I watched his body language. I mean, has this guy always been this big of a jerk off? I mean, he really is incorrigible, and he continues to put the lives of Floridians at risk, continuing to kiss the ass of Donald Trump. And meanwhile, he has failed miserably to handle this pandemic. What what is the story with Ron DeSantis?
Well, the story is that the person that those of us in the Republican Party in Florida for many years really had been, the person who had been groomed to be governor was Adam Putnam. And Adam Putnam had served in the legislature, he had served statewide office, fifth or sixth generation Floridian, highly respected, worked well with both sides. And I knew him, I was supporting him. We'd never heard of Ron DeSantis. I mean, nobody had heard of Ron DeSantis outside of his congressional district. And then really I think the polls at that time were showing Putnam in the Republican primary 70% and DeSantis at like 19%. And then like a lightning bolt, Donald Trump endorses Ron DeSantis. Literally 24 hours later, the poll completely reversed. Putnam said he never see anything like it in his whole life in politics. One endorsement completely annihilated his entire lifetime of preparing for this office. And so all of a sudden we're like, wow, this guy we don't know anything about, we know just come out of nowhere, is now our governor. And I think that DeSantis fully understands that he owes his position to Donald Trump, and he will serve at the pleasure of Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump withdraws that endorsement, DeSantis is toast. So he feels like, I suppose, he has very little choice but to go along. But another guy very similar to DeSantis was Brian Kemp up in Georgia, who owed his governorship to Trump. And look what happened to him. So I'm sure DeSantis is watching that.
Yeah, no kidding. And that election was really, really close between DeSantis and what's his name? Why am I losing his name right now? His Democratic opponent who got into some trouble, which I guess Florida, it would have been a bad deal for you guys either way. But it was really, really close, something like 40,000 votes, right? Which was almost what it was for Brian Kemp too. It was 55,000 votes. So really, really close election there.
Yeah, surprisingly close, considering. But I think that showed the weakness of DeSantis, though, in that he just wasn't known. I mean, a Republican should carry Florida these days fairly easy, has done for quite a while. I mean, the last Democratic governor was Lawton Chiles in 1992. So that was a really close race, and obviously he imploded. So I'm sure the Democrats are looking for a new horse to ride in 2022.
Yeah. No kidding. Andrew Gillum. I don't know why I just had a complete
I was drawing a blank too.
Yeah, I was drawing a complete blank, and he was a CNN contributor and everything else, and that was a salacious story, my God. But anyway,
Yep.
So, geez, as they say, Florida. Tell us a little bit more about what happened with Rebecca Jones and the way that the state mishandled the health data, and why this was something that pushed you over the edge, besides the obvious overreach of law enforcement here and DeSantis's decision to go after her, clearly targeting her. But just tell us a little bit more about what's going on there in Florida with the health data and just the mishandling of COVID.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, the president has very little power to do anything. It's really the 50 with respect to COVID restrictions. That's up to the 50 governors. And so once you realize that, and you realize your governor's Ron DeSantis, you start to worry. And really, I think what we were all very concerned about is knowing he's never going to cross Trump. So whatever Trump wants, that's going to be what we get in Florida. So whereas other states have an independent governor like Hogan up in Maryland, or pretty independent Republican governors, or even DeWine up in Ohio, who kind of went against Trump on a lot of COVID issues, we knew our governor, like Abbott in Texas, like Kemp in Georgia, and like Ducey in Arizona, was going to do whatever Trump wanted. And it became pretty clear that what he wanted was no restrictions. Trump made the calculus that the key to his reelection was throwing open the economy. And he thought that was more important to getting him reelected than containing COVID. And so we basically, because of DeSantis, we're at the mercy of Donald Trump's stupidity. And so, that's And I think we've always felt like we weren't getting accurate data. One of the reasons why I think that is one of the DeSantis has made many dumb statements about COVID, but one of the dumbest ones was he said, if you have a pre-existing condition like high blood pressure, for example, and you die of COVID, that shouldn't count in his stats as a COVID death because you've got a pre-existing condition, which is just insane. But that makes you mistrust what they're telling us about the death numbers.
Right. And Rebecca Jones' crime here is that she was alleged to have sent out a message telling people to follow COVID restrictions and that naming that there had been 17,000 deaths already, and basically to do what you need to do to protect yourselves. That's what's being alleged. She says no, she denies that. But just the fact that DeSantis would choose to go after her this way, with guns blazing and sending in FDLE, it just shows you how far the fealty to Donald Trump will go for some of these governors, to your example. And if it costs lives, it costs lives. We don't care. It's all about protecting their own political fortunes, which are tied to Donald Trump. And there's literally a death count involved here, including in Florida, which is really a shame, because many of these deaths would have been avoidable if states had decent and honest and honorable governors and leaders, like in other states, unfortunately. Before I let you go, I just have to I have to ask you, because I made the leap to leave the Republican Party the day after the election when I saw Donald Trump go after the integrity of the election and Republican leaders stay silent about it, and culminated with everything else. I said, that's it. I've had enough. You've been a lifelong Republican. You've named your son Ronald Reagan. And you've supported Joe Biden in this election, like many of us on the Republican side who just had enough and knew that Donald Trump had to go. But what's the personal cost been to you? Because not a lot of folks have done what we've done, especially when you have a position with the party. Political consultants refuse. They're worried about losing there's been a lot of personal cost for people to speak out against Donald Trump and then take it so far as to leave the party. What's been the personal cost for you in this process?
Well, obviously giving them my position is the first thing. On the Judicial Nominating Commission, I've been on the commission for 10 years. I'm the vice chairman now. I was supposed to be the chairman next year. So that means a lot to me because it gave me the ability to screen applicants for judge positions and make sure that we had the right people. And so I hate giving that up, but like everybody else, we get the hate emails, the hate letters, the postings on my business Google page, which Google won't take down, even though they're not clients of my business, but some guy in Oregon posted a negative review on my Google page this morning and Google won't take it down, even though it has nothing to do with my business. So there's those things, there's those personal costs, but I knew when I sat down here to make that Republican voters against Trump video back in June, I knew what was going to happen. And so, but you have to do what's right. You have to stand up for the country. And so that's what I did. Like so many other people, I'm not alone.
That's right. You are not alone. And as you know, our mantra here at the Lincoln Project was country over party. And we hoped that we encouraged many people to take that stance and choose country over party. And it looks as though they did. 80 million folks did and voted for Joe Biden, including myself and you. And I was proud to cast that ballot, as I presume you were as well, to rid this country of the malignancy of Donald Trump. But we still have to work on Trumpism. That's not gone, unfortunately. Ron Filipkowski, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
So, Florida. Florida's always got something going on down there. And, Rick's not here tonight, but if he were, he'd be making fun of his home state of Florida too, because there's always something happening in Florida. But we're going to keep an eye on that Rebecca Jones story, because that's a bit frightening. that members of the government officials can take that type of retribution against public citizens. And we'll keep an eye on it. It's a little bit complicated, but we will continue to monitor it. So let's bring in my friend, Elie Honig. Elie.
Hey, Tara. How
There
are
you are. I'm
Listen,
wonderful.
Florida's got its own thing going down there with your prior guest. Now it's Jersey time with you and me.
That's right. That's right. For those who don't know, Elie and I are not only CNN colleagues, but we are fellow Jersey folks. And we always, when we're together, we always gang up on everyone else who's not from Jersey because we are a team. And we're Jersey folks. We're very proud of being from Jersey. And Elie specifically is from North Jersey. And anyone who knows about the North Jersey-South Jersey rivalry knows the importance of that, because there is no such thing as Central Jersey.
I'm from South Jersey, though. I grew up in Cherry Hill. I'm a Philly fan, but now I live in North Jersey, so I'm out of place.
North Jersey now.
Yeah.
So I give you a pass.
Yeah.
I give you a pass on that, even though you're a Phillies fan and I'm a Giants fan.
We're not going to do Eagles Giants. There's nothing to discuss for either team.
No. It's been rough, and we have 4 Super Bowls. You only have 1, but that's okay. We'll.
I don't have a response to that.
I know you don't. That's why I said it. But for those who don't know, Elie, let me give you a proper introduction, my friend. Elie is a CNN legal analyst, and he's a former federal and state prosecutor. He has an upcoming book called Hatchet Man: How Bill Barr Broke the Prosecutor's Code and Corrupted the Justice Department. And it will be out this summer. And Elie also has a segment on CNN on the weekends with Ana Cabrera called Cross Exam. So you can send in legal questions and Elie will answer them. He's very accessible, and that's why I wanted to have him on tonight, so we could talk about things and he could answer your legal questions, because I am not a lawyer as much as I wanted to be one and probably should have been. So, Elie, before we get into the Bill Barr news, I just want to take a look at the absolute effing chaos that happened in D.C. over the weekend. Let's take a look at this.
Sure.
Today, thousands of President Trump supporters gathered in the nation's capital, many of them refusing to accept that President-elect Joe Biden won the election.
You still believe he won?
Absolutely.
We are winning! We are winning! The Supreme Court, all they did is say we don't have standing. They're winning these things on little technicalities, like a thing called standing.
We are going to destroy the GOP! Yeah!
And I want to declare to Antifa and anyone that tries to fight us, if you mess with one of us,
show the world who the traitors are. Use the Insurrection Act to drop the hammer on them. If he does not do it now, while he is commander-in-chief, we're going to have to do it ourselves later in a much more bloody war.
The president would describe the folks who showed up on Saturday as very fine people.
Brawls, stabbings, and Black Lives Matter banners burning.
USA! 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 USA!
This banner, torn down by groups in town for the MAGA rally from Asbury United Methodist Church, a historic African-American church in the district.
That's a hate crime.
Folks might ask or expect the president to condemn these groups, but it is important to remember that as Trump wants to continue his election lie, these are the sort of people who are going to be out there supporting him.
So I have to admit that I did not know this rally was happening, this Jericho march, until it was happening, because I was trying to have some semblance of normalcy and have Christmas cheer over the weekend. So I tried to back away and not pay attention to it. But of course, I can't help it. And I saw the alerts on my phone and I said, what the hell is going on now? And when I saw that absolute mayhem and chaos and the batshit wingnut craziness that was coming out of the mouths of these people at this thing, I just couldn't believe it. There was a clip of Nick Fuentes leading a chant, destroy the GOP. Okay, well, that's wonderful. I'm sure Mitch McConnell, right, and the cohorts out there who have been kissing Trump's ass are happy about that. Then there, speaking of asses, there was a picture of these idiots wearing kilts with showing their bare asses with "fuck Antifa" written on ass cheeks. That's wonderful. Okay, yeah, those are real manly men there. These people were out here. These are reality denying, beleaguered, just lunatics out here causing chaos, perpetuating these baseless, fruitless QAnon conspiracy theories, and then they create chaos, vandalism. They vandalize a church. This was the home church of Frederick Douglass back in the day. You know, that got almost no coverage, right? They covered all the other stuff going on with the Proud Boys and all that, giving them the attention that they wanted, but they didn't really cover things like this. It felt like KKK intimidation tactics, what they were doing. I mean, the whole thing was just so untoward. And you know, Elie, as an officer of the court, when you look at that, what do you think about how that would be handled under a different administration?
Yeah, so I think about what's going on sort of on two levels. There's what we just saw. There's the clips of the really extremist belief system or non-belief system, the just outright denialism of reality and facts that does manifest in violence. People got stabbed, people got hurt. I think someone got shot during all of this. And there's
that was in a different state, but yeah.
Okay.
And a police officer got stabbed, by the way.
But there's been a complete silence and a complete failure of political leadership. That's one thing. But what's even more concerning to me in some respects is the broader numbers. When you look at the broader scope and you see the polls that show that 70% at one point of Trump voters believe that this election was not legitimate, that Joe Biden had not legitimate. I mean, 70%, that is tens of millions of people. And boy, where does that leave us? What happens next time? I mean, this election was so close, medium close. We've had way closer. We've had, bigger blowouts, but are we going to have this every time? Is either side going to raise their game here and say enough?
We haven't seen it yet, Elie, and that's my concern. Besides the damage to just, our democracy and our republic and the institutions in general, but what the hell do we do next time? It really wasn't that close, right? The Trump people said last time Trump won by the same amount of electoral votes as Biden did. It was the exact same amount, just in reverse. And it was a landslide. He had a mandate for the American people. But this time it's fraud. It's, he actually won. It's not, and he lost the popular vote by 7 million votes. And he lost by more votes in all the swing states than Hillary did last time. It's crazy.
The idea that it was a landslide, I think, is hyperbolic both ways. I mean, can't we just have a win that's not a land? Like 306 to 232 is a win, but it's not a landslide. Everyone calls everything a landslide. Like, let's just knock it off both ways here. But in other respects, this past election, 2020, was, in the mathematical scheme of things, really close. I mean, remember there was that famous stat that Hillary Clinton had lost 3 states by a combined 70-something thousand votes, that if she'd swung 70,000 votes in those 3 states, there's a very similar stat for Trump this year. I think there's 3 states that were under 100,000 votes total that he could have swung. That is, in a nation of 300-some million people, that is still darn close. But I do want to say this. Our institutions held, maybe not by much, but I have to give a lot of credit in particular to the courts here, because you've all seen, everyone's seen the stats, how these election challenges are 1 in 61. And most notably, the Supreme Court just turned away case after case. And there was such a misimpression out there that Donald Trump spread, and I don't know whether he knew he was spreading BS or he just didn't know any better. But a lot of people were saying, well, remember Bush versus Gore? They handed the election to Bush. Can't that just happen again? And if that happens again, isn't it just going to break the way it did there, where all the conservatives take this side, all the liberals take this side, whoever's got more wins? The misimpression, though, the naivete of Trump and Rudy Giuliani and others, Jenna Ellis, who were like, we'll just go to the Supreme Court and that'll be it. You don't just get to go to the Supreme Court, as they just demonstrated twice. They flicked it away. They said, no. We decide who we take. We decide what cases we take. Second of all, Bush versus Gore caused a lasting misimpression of what the Supreme Court does. The common popular narrative around Bush v. Gore is we had this really close election and the Supreme Court by a 5-4 vote said, you win, you lose. That is not what happened. The only reason it came down to that Supreme Court case is because A, the whole thing turned on one state. B, that state was absurdly close within 537, Florida. I think, votes, right? Florida. And the Supreme Court didn't declare winner. They just put an end to the recount on specious grounds. But what people have taken out of that 20 years later is the Supreme Court has the power and can and will step in and say, no, 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 you win, you lose. That is not the way it works in our legal system, and that is a very good thing.
I'm so glad that you made that distinction, because you're right. A lot of people had no idea that, well, first of all, it was 20 years ago, so a lot of folks don't even remember. But there's really no comparison to what the Supreme Court decided on in the Florida case of Bush v. Gore versus what they were being presented with this time. Florida did not have a proper structure for their recount and how to stop it. And so that's why the Supreme Court came in and said, okay, at some point there has to be a threshold to stop this, and it's going to be now. A lot of states changed their rules to make sure that nothing like that happened again. Actually, that was the good thing. For Republicans, we were happy that it was Bush, not Gore. But something else that came out of that were a lot of states made changes and laid out specific processes for recounts so that would never happen again. And we saw that play out. We saw it play out in Georgia 3 times. We saw it play out in Wisconsin and Arizona, and the system worked. So you're right. It was the institutions held, and our third branch of government, the judicial branch, balanced out the crazy of the other two. And that's how our founding fathers designed it. So
it was a stress test. It was a stress test, and we made it through. Yep.
Thank God. Well, let's talk about someone else who we made it through, and we're going to shift our focus, and we have a new segue.
Joe Biden, Kamala, they want to take away your jobs, take away your borders, take away your freedom, take away your religion, and they even want to take away your beautiful Christmas that we just got back.
Is that a Christmas theme? I'm trying to get a mental image in my head of what that is.
Yes. So I appreciate the Christmas theme, and we have this. We have the opportunity for viewers to send in ideas for our segues, because we always have something comical when we transition. And that was a viewer-inspired segue. We appreciate you. And if you want to send in your ideas, there's the hashtag breakdown segue. Send in your ideas, and maybe there's a chance we might actually use one. I can never get that image out of my head now.
Yeah, that's a good job by the viewer.
It's
off the wall, but I liked it. Good job.
That makes it all the more original. We love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. So Elie, let's talk about our favorite person.
Yes.
Bill freaking Barr. I have to say that I was thrilled. Good riddance to Bill Barr. What a menace he's been. Oh, yes. So that's the first time I've seen that. We have a bye-bye for Donald Trump. And now we've got, it is. Yeah, there it is. And now we've got a Bill Barr.
You're going to get to do that as everyone exits in the coming weeks when Jared Kushner, they'll all leave together, but you'll have it for Kushner and Stephen Miller, and you can use that drop as much as you need in the next few weeks.
I can't wait to see what our team comes up with when Stephen Miller exits the White House. We already have a running in memoriam, but I have a feeling that our creative team has something special for Stephen Miller's departure.
They need to step up.
So I have full faith in them. So Bill Barr's out, and the timing of this, of course, cannot be, missed here. That it was right as Joe Biden was declared the winner by the Electoral College. He can't have a minute. He just can't bask in the glory for a minute. Nope. Donald Trump has to come in and ruin it, and they released this resignation letter. Can you just please talk to me about this resignation letter? Because frankly, it was bonkers.
This resignation letter, it's a page long, but it was impossible to get through. It was such an embarrassment, such a slobbering mess. And by the way, Tara, I want to do for you and the viewers, I'm going to do a dramatic reading of parts of it, if I may.
Please
do. Before I do, however, let me just make sure people understand. This is not the way it works. Attorneys general almost always, certainly the last several, stay in office until January 20th, and then they go along with the president. And to leave 30 days early, or I guess he's leaving on December 23rd, to leave 3-4 weeks early is very unusual. And everyone says, well, what happened? Who fired who? Who dumped who? That kind of thing. It was clear that it was over. The minute Bill Barr, for really the first time in his tenure, showed any backbone, independence, and credibility and stood up and said, we've not found massive election fraud, it was over at that point. It was just a question, is he getting fired or is he going to resign? And I think this was a way for Bill Barr to save a little bit of face and perhaps distance himself from the real laughing stocks, the Rudies and the Jenna Ellis constitutional law attorneys out there. At the same time, he's trying to change the narrative because, I remember from psychology class, freshman year in college, there's primacy and recency, right? You tend to remember the first thing someone did and the last thing. And I think he's hoping that if he goes out on a little bit of a principled note, although this letter does not help that we'll remember him better. But remember, doing the right thing and standing up one time after the election, after they're all on their way out, does not even begin to undo the prior 2 years. Okay, so now I'm going to offer you a reading of this letter along with I'm going to break out of character and give some explanation, if I may.
I should have brought a drink with me. I only have water today. This is pure entertainment here.
I'm putting on my reading glasses so I look smart like Homer Simpson when he reads. Okay. Dear Mr. President, I appreciate the opportunity to update you this afternoon on the department's review of voter fraud allegations in the 2020 election and how these allegations will continue to be pursued. Okay, pause. This is, well, I don't like to swear on air. I was going to add, but I heard you swear.
Oh, you can.
This is complete and utter BS. Okay. There is no reason on earth in a farewell letter, a thank you for having me, I resign letter, you would say, oh, Mr. President, just a few hours ago, I briefed you on such and such. It was such an honor. Right. This is not the reason this is in here is this is what Trump wants. He's throwing him a raft so that Trump can say, oh, no, when the next time someone says to him, but DOJ looked and they didn't find anything, he goes, no, they're still looking. Bill Barr told me they're still looking. Same way OJ's still looking for the killer, they're still looking, right? This is a complete sop to Donald Trump. And whatever credit Bill Barr gets for taking that stand a couple weeks ago, he undoes a heck of a lot of it here. Okay. Now we're on to the really juicy, dramatic part. Okay. All right. I am greatly honored that you called on me to serve your administration and the American people once again as Attorney General. I am proud to have played a role in the many successes and unprecedented achievements you have delivered for the American people. Your record is all the more historic because you accomplished it in the face of relentless, implacable resistance. Here comes anger time, okay? We went from mushy talk, now it's anger time. Your 2016 victory speech in which you reached out to your opponents. Footnote, that was the American Carnage speech. Okay. Right. In which you reached out to your opponents. Where am I? Hold on, I'm getting too dramatic here. And called for working together for the benefit of the American people was immediately met by a partisan onslaught against you in which no tactic, no matter how abusive and deceitful, was out of bounds. The nadir, I looked that up. That means the low point. The nadir of this campaign was the effort to cripple, if not oust your administration with frenzied and baseless accusations of collusion with Russia. Few could have weathered these attacks. Few could have weathered these attacks, much less forge ahead. It's like George Washington crossing the Delaware. Forge ahead with a positive program for the country. You built the strongest, you all this. Okay, let me pause. All right.
Elie, listen, you've got another career waiting for you. If this, political commentary thing, this book writing stuff doesn't work out, you got a chance in Hollywood. So I got an agent for you.
Thank you. I look, this is I'm really in this because I'm hoping to catch someone's eye for dramatic readings. But here's what he's doing. Okay. He's kissing up to Donald Trump in a disgusting way that you should not do. Look, there's nothing wrong with the Attorney General saying it's been an honor to serve you. I'm privileged to have been part of your policy, whatever. But all this, is ridiculous. And the crazy part is he's lashing out at Donald Trump's perceived political opponents, frenzied and baseless, abusive and deceitful. And he William Barr is redoing his original sin, which we all know was he lied to the public about the Mueller report in a way that, and I spend time on this in the book, that completely got Donald Trump off the hook when he probably never would have. I think by lying to the public about the Mueller report, and then remember, Bill Barr lied to us about that report. He gave us his 4 pages and held that report back for 27 days. While public opinion solidified around his false narrative.
Right,
and what does
exactly
he do here?
What he was doing with that.
100%. He said, "Oh, we had to redact." I talk about this in the book. I redacted a million things. Look, when you're the attorney general and you have the entire DOJ at your disposal, you can get that thing redacted in less than 27 days. And by the way, remember, Mueller gave him summaries. He said, Bill Barr, "Oh, these are my summaries. I've already redacted them. They're good to go. Please just issue them." And that's what prompted Mueller to say, "Yeah, what are you doing? I gave you summaries." And Barr was like, Right. Right. Yeah. So, but Bill Barr doubles down on that here. He goes back to a collusion hoax, this and that, despite all the findings that the investigation was well-founded, that it was necessary and proper to start it, and that while there wasn't quite a chargeable federal crime, no question there were dozens of contacts and efforts to make contact between Trump campaign and Russia. And then the one other thing I want to point out about the letter.
It was real colluding at Asha Rangappa, you say.
It was. And look, no collusion. Okay, maybe, but they sure as hell tried. They weren't good at it, but they tried. And then the thing that really gets me is it takes him, here's the letter, okay? It takes him until here, the last sentence of the last paragraph, to even mention the men and women of law enforcement who selflessly, often thanklessly, risk their lives. If you're writing a letter like this, the only themes, the only through lines, points 1 and 1A are, thank you for the honor of serving you and the people, the people of this great nation. But I mostly want to thank and show respect to the selfless, dedicated career public servants who make this institution what it is. That is a no-brainer. Even if you don't mean it, fake it, Bill Barr. But he's not even good enough. And then I just want to point out, he closes with, wishing you, Melania, and your family a Merry Christmas and a blessed holiday season. God bless. And I want to say I have no problem with that. I don't, except he capitalizes the B in God bless. So I was almost going to say he nailed that last sentence, but why would you capitalize the B in God bless? I understand the capital God, but bless? Am I missing something?
Yeah, that was like some kind of secret QAnon message to the evangelicals. They're like, they're all in the same bucket, and when the rapture comes, don't worry, we'll all go together. I mean, who knows? These people are all lunatics, and Bill Barr and his antics. You called Bill Barr a disgrace, and you're right. He is an absolute disgrace. And compared, you work for the Justice Department. Compared to other attorneys general, he literally disgraced himself with the very first act, like you said, by misrepresenting the Mueller report. And then, multiple other things, not to mention what happened at Lafayette Square and all of that, that disaster. I mean, he is an absolute disgrace. And, before we have a caller and we're going to get to the caller in a second. So just make your answer short.
Yes.
What happens between now and January 30th? I mean, explain to folks what can we expect? Like, what happens?
Okay. Normally, this would be a quiet period, but it's not going to be. One, there's going to be pardons from Donald Trump. Normally, DOJ is a sort of go-through for pardons. It's not required by law, but it's one of these long-standing norms that Donald Trump has completely ignored. He's going to continue to ignore them. He hasn't used the pardon attorney for advice. So Donald Trump's going to continue pardoning. DOJ is going to have nothing to do with it. Here's the big one. Does the new attorney general, acting attorney general, appoint a special counsel like what Robert Mueller was, a special counsel on the Hunter Biden investigations that just came out?
Oh my God.
And that is going to be a very politically loaded decision. It seems pretty clear Bill Barr was not going to do that because this investigation reportedly has been around since 2018. Bill Barr's known about it. He's not appointed a special counsel. Are they now going to do that? If they do that, it really has a way of sort of preserving the investigation, making sure it goes well into the Biden administration. And one of the things that it does is there are mechanisms in the special counsel rule for Congress and the public to learn about the investigation in ways that wouldn't normally happen. The Mueller report was issued as part of those regs. You wouldn't see something like the Mueller report in a normal criminal investigation. So it kind of opens the books on the Hunter Biden investigation. That'll be very interesting to see what they do there.
But Elie, this means that the deputy attorney general, who's now the acting attorney general, this guy, Jeffrey Rosen, who has no prosecutorial experience. He's like a corporate lawyer. He's never prosecuted a case in court.
Right.
He can appoint anyone, right? He doesn't have to ask Congress's permission or anything, right? He could like appoint Rudy freaking Giuliani if he wanted to.
I was just going to say that. So here's the thing. The special counsel rules actually say special counsel has to be someone from outside the department. That's why they went and got Mueller. They probably violated that when they named Durham special counsel because he was already in the department. And if you think back years ago with Scooter Libby, they went and got Pat Fitzgerald, who was an SDNY alum, but he was out. I mean, meaning if they do this, if Jeffrey Rosen does this, and you're right, by the way, Bill Barr, I have a little bit in my book about how the top 4 people at DOJ, including Barr, all combined have never tried a case as a prosecutor in their careers, which I think is a big reason for their failings. They didn't understand how this stuff works. But they can choose whoever they want. And there's no way to review it. There's no way to challenge it. And the first name that came into my mind, Tara, you already said it. I just thought, oh my God, could they really? And by the way, if they do that,
talk about it. Maybe we should stop giving him any ideas.
I know. I said it earlier on another program I was on, and I was like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't. But here's the thing. It puts the new AG and Joe Biden in an impossible spot. Look, Joe Biden should say, my policy is I have nothing to do with this. I'm not getting involved. I'm going to do better than Bill Barr and Donald Trump. I'm not going to meddle in criminal prosecutions. And that's where the line has always been. The new AG, look, if he or she gets stuck with the special counsel, realistically, you can't fire that person. I mean, the rules say, the regs say you can fire him only for cause, but politically, it's not. I mean, in some ways it's different, but it would be like if Trump fired Robert Mueller, which a lot of us said would have been a crime and obstruction of justice. So if they do this, they're sticking this investigation with DOJ. Now, by the way, even if they do not appoint special counsel, I know we'll get to the call just in a second. Even if they do not appoint a special counsel, I still think the same considerations apply. Joe Biden should say, I will have nothing to do with this case. I will make no comment on this case. He already has made a little bit of a comment that I don't think he should have. He said, well, public comment. Hunter's been through so much and come out stronger. Yeah. That's a little bit like witch hunting that I don't like, that he shouldn't be weighing in on. It's not nearly to the level on it. But yeah, I know it's a son. I understand. But no matter what, Joe Biden's policy should be, I'm hands off on all prosecutions. It's up to the AG. So anyway, we have
which is what the normal practice has been before Donald Trump. Because
with respect to prosecutions,
prosecutions, right? None of this is normal. All right, let's take our first call. We have a call from Fort Lauderdale. Yes. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh.
What is your name? Dr. Turnbull. Yes, there it is.
Dr. Helen Turnbull. Thought I'd use doctor, given all the conversation about that recently.
Sorry, I thought you were
I'm originally from Scotland, so it made me cringe to see Bill Barr with bagpipes. I'm a registered Democrat, and I live in Florida, so I don't have much time for Governor DeSantis. But my question this evening, I'm a huge fan of the Lincoln Project, and my question this evening is really about Bill Barr. So I've been listening carefully to your conversation. Is the timing of his so-called resignation, whether he was fired or he resigned. I'm hearing a lot of conversation, or reading it on Twitter, that part of the reason he's gone is because he said, whatever it is Trump wants to do is so egregious that even he can't live with it. For example, Trump called today for the arrest of Brian Kemp and the other individual, Raffensperger, in Georgia. And so I just wanted your views on that. Is it likely that Trump actually wants to do something that even Barr can't live with?
So,
Elie, you're the resident expert.
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think that Bill Barr, like many people, pro and con Donald Trump, has sort of learned to let Donald Trump's wilder rantings roll off his back. And you remember, it wasn't long ago, President Trump was seriously calling for the indictments of Barack Obama and Joe Biden over the unmasking of Michael Flynn, which is a big nothing. And nobody really did. I mean, actually, well, Bill Barr did appoint this prosecutor Bash to look at it, who found nothing. But I do think Barr has gotten pretty good at sort of shutting out just the crazier lunatic rantings. I think what happened here is it became completely clear to Bill Barr he wasn't going to make it to the end. Once he said no evidence of election fraud, he knew it. The man is trying to save face, trying to save reputation, trying to look, the ship is sunk. It's sunk. It's not sinking. It's sunk. He knows it's over. Why not try to salvage some dignity? It's embarrassing and humiliating to get fired with 30-something days left. So I think Bill Barr and Trump sort of worked some midpoint where it was like, I'm going to go. I think Bill Barr was going to go no matter what. And Trump probably, I think they reached some understanding. I'm not trying to get in their heads. I'm just seeing what's out there on the paper where I'll praise, Trump sent out this syrupy, sweet tweet about William Barr, which is after days of berating him today. When he got rid of him, he said, oh, he's done such a wonderful job. And Barr sends him this sort of kowtowing letter, and they just sort of mutually part ways. I think that's all there was to it. And look,
which came
was
first,
there some?
Ellie? Did the tweet come first or the letter?
So it's not clear. It was almost simultaneous because who knows when the letter was actually transmitted, and the tweet you can look at the timestamp.
I suspect the letter was reviewed before the tweet was issued.
Oh, listen, that first paragraph about it was my honor to brief you on our ongoing election that doesn't Bill Barr. I mean, unless he's even more of a sycophant than I imagined, that doesn't get in there without someone suggesting it.
I mean, he auditioned for the job by writing a 20-page, brief about how to get through the Mueller type investigation, the Russia hoax. So, I mean, I think it's pretty obsequious.
It still blows my mind that happened. I mean, again, I've been researching and writing this for my book. The fact that the man, as a private citizen, said, here's the 20-pager on why the investigation, the most important matter I will be handling by 10 miles, is fatally misconceived. That's what he said. And at his hearing, he said, "Oh, I was just a concerned private citizen." Bull. You know how we know that? He also went to the media. He talked to the media and he called Mueller's investigation, and I quote, asinine. If you're just offering penny for a thought as a private citizen, why are you going to the media? Because you're trying to catch Donald Trump's eye. And then at his hearing, his confirmation hearing, he was asked throughout about his memo. And he just sort of said, well, no, I haven't prejudged this case. Well, my theory is very narrow. Yeah, it's narrow to the exact issue that Mueller's looking at. I can't believe, there's Tara, you're a football fan. Yeah, I mean, you remember the famous quote, you're an NFL fan, where Denny Green, I think he was coach of the Vikings at the time. They were who we thought they were. Right. I mean, that's it. The guy told us who he was. He got in almost a straight party line vote. And guess what? He was exactly what he told us he was. And then way worse as time went on.
As was Donald Trump. Let's take a tweet.
But remember, you know what's funny, Tara? Oh, go ahead.
Hold on one second. Okay, let's muss it looks like. What are your expectations for the new cabinet members? Who makes the least sense?
Oh, the least sense. Okay. Well, I mean Rudy,
right.
If we're really going to an extreme here.
No, I think they mean for Biden's cabinet.
No, that's what I'm saying. Rudy would make if you really want to say, would make the least sense. Let's be realistic. I mean, look, so far, and I'm interested in what you think, Tara, the people that Biden has chosen are experienced, veteran, sober-minded, sort of soft-spoken, right? There's not the bigger personalities. He's not going for the big glossy name. Today he went for, Buttigieg and Granholm, who are more famous, but he thus far hasn't gone for the Elizabeth Warrens, the Cory Bookers, the bigger names out there. And he's gone with just sort of almost everybody who is now being put in a position has at some prior time been the deputy to that position. And the only big one left is AG, and all the people on the short list, whether it's Doug Jones, Sally Yates, Lisa Monaco, would be just enormous step ups from Bill Barr in terms of experience, expertise, demonstrated commitment to public service and independence and credibility.
Well, my cat Tiki would be an exponential increase over Bill Barr as the as the Attorney General. So, the bar is set pretty low for that.
Oh boy.
So far, I think that Biden has played it very safe. He's sticking with people who are familiar and experienced, to your point, which is important. Obviously, for people who are not fans of the Obama administration, they don't like to see some of these people as a rehash coming back into these positions. But that's a political argument that I really don't care about at this point. I just want competence. I want competence,
you took the
competence, which
it's
is
the word right out of my mouth. I was just going to say, like,
sorely lacking
competence.
Everything. That's right. And that's the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to really know who the second in command is at this agency who's done this. You're really not. They're supposed to be like, put their heads down, public servants doing their job of running the government.
It's such a great point. So you and I want to go back and forth for a second. What are positions, job titles in government that we've never known the name of before that now everybody knows? There's so many of them, and not in the good way, right? Okay.
Right.
So, I mean, everyone basically knows the Attorney General, but now everyone knows the Deputy AG at all times, right? Rosenstein, and that, and now Rosen. That's not a good thing. What's that? Sorry.
We all know the succession of the succession of like all the major cabinet departments of like DHS.
I got another one.
Who the fourth person down is DOJ.
Right, yep. How about the Postmaster General? When was the last time anyone knew the Postmaster General? Now we all know who that is, right?
Right.
That's the most ridiculous one of all. It's absurd. Yeah. It's not a good reflection that everybody now knows who's in, some of these positions that you never even think about. White House Chief of Staff. I mean, we as sort of media, political, legal folks know, but I don't know. I can't even sitting here now name, George W. Bush's Chief of Staff.
No. I've got one. I've got one better. Yeah. I've got one better. The GSA freaking administrator.
Yes, Emily Murphy, right? Household name.
Was
okay.
Right?
Our finalists here are finalists for position nobody ever heard of that now everybody knows. It's got to be either Louis DeJoy, Postmaster General. The only other Postmaster General anyone's ever heard of is Ben Franklin.
Right.
And Louis DeJoy is not quite at Ben Franklin level.
No.
And then Emily Murphy, GSA. Vote or whatever. Put a poll up. Which position is the more obscure position that we now all know for bad reasons? Yeah.
Exactly. So we're paying so far so good with all of Biden's picks. You have a couple that are more controversial than others, but controversial, we say that loosely compared to Donald Trump, but still anxiously awaiting who the Attorney General will be. And also, I would like to see who the CIA director is going to be, even though I heard today he's not going to make that cabinet level, but that's still very, very important given all the things that are going on right now. All right. Yep. You have another caller from Michigan, I believe.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Paul Armstrong, and I'll have you know that the earliest Armstrong in our family tree was a wagon driver in George Washington's army in New Jersey.
Hey. All right.
We like that. That's
Furthermore,
awesome.
my father was a radio operator on the battleship New Jersey during World War II.
Wow.
Very cool.
You got some strong Jersey cred here. He's giving us a run for our money, Elie.
Did he cross the Delaware with Washington?
That. Pardon?
Did your ancestor cross the Delaware with Washington?
I am the family historian, but I haven't dug it that deep.
All right.
Anyways, in the last election, I voted for 4 Democrats and the rest Republicans. White Lake Township, where I live, our whole board is Republican. So if you want to choose your local government, you vote in the Republican primary. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. But with the Texas lawsuit, I was honestly downright pissed off. I said, if you're going to void my vote for president, then you might as well void my vote for all the rest of the Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't have it both ways.
That's right.
So the one issue I have is my mother's from Canada, so I'm both a son of a revolution and a son of an immigrant. And I have family there. So right now, Canada has 475,214 cases of COVID and 13,659 deaths. They're 1/10 of our population. If we had done as well as they had, right now we'd have 4,750,000 cases of COVID and 130,600 deaths. You know, so clearly our leadership has failed in a big way because Michigan and Ontario, similar population, similar climates, similar economy. There's no reason why we couldn't be doing that well. That said,
yep. You have a question?
Yeah, the question I have is, if I wanted to run for our state legislature, I'm wondering what I would do. I think our local representative for our state Michigan legislature I know he's a Trumper. I don't know if he signed on to that amicus, I guess that's what you call it, but signed on to the Texas lawsuit. Anyways, I figure he's kind of betraying his constituents. So I'm sort of saying if somebody else won't do it, maybe I'll do it in 2 years. But I'm not a political animal.
You know what, Paul? And thank you for calling in. And I love calls like that because how many other people around the country feel the way Paul does when they say that they look at their representative and, most people don't even know who their state representatives are. And they do now. Another byproduct of this crazy political environment that's been all encompassing is that people have really been paying attention and they've been inspired to do something and to get involved. And I think that is one of, when people ask me about the era of Trump and like what were some of the good things, it's hard to find, but one of the good things that I always point out is the level of civic engagements that's been increased. When you look at the record number of people who voted this time around, we had record numbers of voter participation in this election, and here you have a guy in a small town in Michigan who's looking at what's going on and saying, you know what, if this guy isn't representing me and our interests right, I think I'm going to run against him, and I applaud that. And Paul, I think you should do it. All right.
I second that. Do it. Yeah. And let me just real quick. I agree. And I'll give you a couple quick examples of people who've been moved to run for office. I think mutual friends of ours. Mimi Rocha, who was a colleague of mine at SDNY, ran against an incumbent Democrat in the primary for Westchester County DA, beat him, and then trounced the Republican, and now she will be sworn in. And Maya Wiley, who I don't know if you know her, but she's a legal analyst, who I met through the TV circuit. She's now running for mayor of New York City. So yes, it'll be great to see people energized running for office, both parties.
That's right. Absolutely right. And I think, the more the merrier at this point. That's why our system was set up the way it was set up. It wasn't set up for professional politicians to run for office. It was supposed to be representative of the people. That's why the House of Representatives is called the People's House, because it was supposed to represent, various aspects of life across the country. And then, the Senate was the upper chamber for the snooty ones with longer terms. But every 2 years was to force people to be engaged with their constituents at home. The delegate versus a trustee of the people, which was an ongoing discussion back when the system was set up. So good for you, Paul. I hope you do run for office, and best of luck to you. Do we have one more tweet before we go? All right. So who do you think Jim Jordan is going to challenge to a wrestling match on January 6th? And how many seconds before Pelosi pins him? Kevin Smith. Thank you for that visual, by the way. And frankly, my money is on Nancy freaking Pelosi. She is a tough broad, and she comes from a tough Italian family in Baltimore. Don't let that San Francisco stuff fool you. She grew up in Baltimore, and she would, I think, take Jim Jordan out.
The Nancy D'Alessandro would come out. That's her maiden name.
That's
she takes pride in that. Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Jordan.
So, my gosh. Now I'm going to be thinking about that when the hijinks happen. For those who are wondering why January 6th, January 6th
Oh,
is the
right.
day that Congress accepts ceremonially the Electoral College's certification. And this is the last-ditch effort for some of these idiots over there in the Congress to try to create more political kabuki theater to challenge the results of the election. Now, we already know this is going to happen in the House. You can't control these idiots like Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz and some of the other ones. They're going to do what they do. But they need to have a senator to co-sign their objection in order for this debate to happen and to for a vote to be taken to overturn the election. After Mitch McConnell came out today and acknowledged that Joe Biden is the president-elect, I don't see a Republican senator coming out and co-signing this. Maybe.
I'm trying to think. I mean, one name comes to my mind who would be the leading candidate.
My mind too, but
Ted Cruz is the first one that jumps to my mind who will sign
Ted
that.
Cruz, Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, Lindsey Graham. I mean, these are people who it's not outside the realm of possibility, but Mitch McConnell runs a pretty tight ship, and he will, he doesn't want to see that happen. He's an institutionalist at heart, despite all of the other things that he's done to placate Trump. But I think that makes it exponentially more difficult for these senators to go along with this charade. So that's what January 6th is going to be about. No matter what happens, still going to be, there's going to be hijinks going on there. They're going to make a spectacle of themselves. But no matter what, Joe Biden will be inaugurated at noon on January 20th, 2021, 36 days from now. Elie Honig, I absolutely adore you. Thank you for coming on and hanging out with me tonight. Best of luck with your book. It's coming out this summer. You guys can pre-order it, right? I think you can pre-order it now on Amazon.
Just if you go to any book site, type in. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Elie Honig on the planet. ELIEHONIG. Like on Twitter and stuff, I don't have to be Elie Honig 13 or anything. You're probably the only Tara Setma. I don't know.
I am.
But no, thank you, Tara. We always look. We can hang anytime. We've always got a million things to talk about. It's great seeing you. Have an awesome background. You get the 10 out of 10 on Room Raider. This was the first one I used. They gave me like a 4. I was devastated, or a 6 or something. But I moved it up. I got to a 9.
I remember. This is my 10 out of 10. And poor Elie. Thank you so much. And poor
that's
Elie,
a legit 10. This is a legit 4. This is a legit 4.
But then you changed it. He switched it up. And you got like an 8 or something the next time.
I got like they made me work. They moved me from like a 6 to an 8 to a 9, then an 8 again, then a 9. They're great.
And now
They're great.
Now you're back to the 4. And I have a feeling that has something to do with your kids. Because
yes, the downstairs is taken. Yeah. Can I tell you real quick in 1 minute before we go, my kids at home story. So I have a 15-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter. I was on with Don Lemon one night, we're both regulars with Don.
Yeah.
And I was up here and the connection was no good. And so the producer said right before, and I always tell my kids, guys, I'm doing CNN, I'm upstairs, and they're good about it. And the producer's like, can you get closer to your Wi-Fi? I said, yeah, hold on. I ran downstairs. It was like, it was Don. So it was 10:30 or 11 at night. I didn't tell my kids. My son, we're doing the segment. It's me and John Avlon and Don. And I can see, all you can see on the screen is your own feed. And all of a sudden I see my son, 15 years old, it's in the summer, wandering right across the back, shirtless in his pajama pants, tapping away on his phone. And I went like this. Hey, well, you can't see it, but I did like, and he scurried off. And when it was over, I said to the producer, I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry. She goes, I think we were on a full screen graphic when that happened. And we were. We were on a full screen graphic of a Joe Biden quote, thankfully. Thank God, whatever Joe Biden said. But you can hear as clear as day me going, like, get.
That's so funny. Well, listen, that would have gotten you a 10 out of 10 by itself on Room Raider, because they love it when any animals or kids come into the shot. So
yes, a shirtless 15-year-old idiot. Yeah, that would have been great.
That would have been great. Yeah. Oh my God, Elie, I love you. Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see you when we're safe to congregate again and we can hang out in person.
I miss human beings. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody watching. Thanks so much for having me, Tara.
Thank you. And folks, get his book and follow Elie on Twitter. He is a riot there also. All right. As we wrap up the show, I just want to do a quick call to action. As everyone knows, we are focused on Georgia. And early voting has already started there in Georgia. So to our Georgia brethren out there, please, 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 if you have not gone to vote yet, go out there and vote. There are record numbers. I was talking about this before, about the record numbers of voter participation in the general. Well, in Georgia, the numbers are in within the first day, 168,000 people have already voted. That's up 23% from the general election. That's extraordinary for a runoff, folks. So continue to vote, 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 vote. Do not let these crazies down there in Georgia discourage you from doing that. They're trying, but it's all going to be about getting out the vote. That's what this is about. Runoffs are not sexy, but there's over $200 million being put into these two Georgia Senate runoffs down there, and we're right there in the thick of it. On Thursday, we'll have Nate Nesbitt to talk about it. He's down there running our Georgia operation, so be sure to tune in on Thursday. We also have a special show celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the founding of the Lincoln Project. So be sure to tune in on Thursday for that. And there may be actually a little special tour of the Christmas cheer going on, not only here behind me, but in our house. So you want to see that? Tune in on Thursday. But before that, don't forget to tune in to our sister show, Vote for America with Jennifer Horn. You can check that out on our streaming channels on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2:30 Eastern, everywhere you find Lincoln Project streaming. And before we go, here's a clip from our latest podcast episode with Jennifer Horn, talking about what's behind Trump's failure to secure enough of the COVID vaccine and why that distribution has been so troublesome. Thank you, good night, and we'll see you Thursday.
I think that what is unfortunately probably the truth here is that it's just another in a series of conscious decisions made by this president that has put the lives of the American people at risk without any care or concern or compassion from him.
Oh no. All right.
know the Senate can be all-consuming. It's not our only colleagues, but their spouses and loved ones that all get folded into the extended family.
Oh, Mitch. Where were those tears when Georgians mourned their loved ones lost to COVID-19? And where were those tears when Georgians lost their jobs and struggled to put food on the tables for their families? While Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue cashed in on secret COVID briefings. If only they had that money from the government you held up over partisan politics in solidarity with a gutless, heartless, corrupt, soon-to-be ex-president. Oh, Mitch. After all these years of cold-hearted, bigoted, sanctimonious behavior, could it be that you actually have a heart? What a shame you only show it for your fellow Republican cronies on the way out the door, and not for Americans who are hurting.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Just watching my algorithms get crushed. I guess I did something to piss off the Instagram gods, so hopefully you're seeing this stuff anyway. We'll do what we can. Talk to you soon.